new dads, if you're anything like me, the only advice you got about becoming a father was this: make sure you sleep. That's all they ever tell you, is make sure you catch up on sleep. There are so many other aspects about becoming a father that we just simply do not know about until we throw it into the fire. In this video, I'm gonna show you some of those things that you can be aware of about becoming a dad. These things, I'm telling you, no one is telling you about. First on the agenda is this, dads. No one ever tells you how it can be incredibly difficult to get pregnant. All right, let me explain something. So when it comes to your wife getting pregnant, right, there has to be a certain window of time that it takes place within the cycle. You have basically like a 3 to 4 day window that can be considered, quote unquote, the fertile window. And within that window, you have very specific times that your sperm has to meet her egg to be able to create a baby. Now, if you were like me, you thought like this: if you have sex one time, you can get your girlfriend or whoever pregnant. That's just kind of the idea, that you do this thing one time and magically a baby appears. It's simply not the case. It does not happen that way. It is very difficult for some people to get pregnant. Now, doesn't happen sometimes on the first try? Yes. But let me tell you this, in my experience, it was a while and it took a lot of attempts to be able to have that moment happen. No one tells you about this. It is incredibly difficult to actually conceive, to begin that process of having a baby. So dads, before you jump into it, just know ahead of time, if you try for a month, you really only get about 3 days of trying per month. That's really what you get. And if you happen to miss on those days, you have to wait an entire extra month before you can try again. Now you can imagine how 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, a year goes by, but even a year, you really only get 36 tries out of the 365 days. That is very low odds. That is very low odds. So it's actually incredible when women do get pregnant, because the process is very specific in how it takes place. Okay, so we covered getting pregnant. Now, what happens and what no one tells you about when your wife becomes pregnant? Well, no one actually tells you that the bonding experience for the father with the baby is little to none, because what happens is the baby is obviously growing in the mother. The mother will be able to feel the kicks, will be able to feel the baby grow, all those things, hiccups inside the womb, all those things the mom can feel, but no one prepares the dad for the mental space that he has to go through in order to be able to understand how he can bond with his baby. So the best thing that I found was that when I was at appointments, the best way I was bonding with the baby was when I got to hear the heartbeat, or when I got to see him on the ultrasound. Those were the ways that I could bond with the baby, and those were the moments where I felt exhilarating joy. The same face that I saw my wife would make when the baby would kick, I had that same feeling when I saw or when I heard the heartbeat and when I saw him in the ultrasound. So dads, be prepared. Like, go to all the appointments that you can, because even for the simple fact of just bonding with your baby is incredibly difficult as a father, and it's hard to attach to your baby the same way that a mom does, because the mom gets to literally becomes a part of her entire pregnancy, and we kind of have to live on the outside of that. So no one really tells you about that space that you're put into, that you will have a way more difficult time processing the whole pregnancy. I remember thinking, like, the whole time I would look at my wife's belly grow, and I would constantly like ask the question, like, is there really a baby in there? Like, that thought has crossed my mind so much, where it's like, I know you're growing, and obviously, like, I've heard the heartbeat, but it's like, are you really in there? And that continuously kind of like goes through your mind as a father, because you don't have really much of an interaction. And when the baby starts to like kick and do those things, you start to bond a little more, but it's nowhere near the same amount that the mom gets to bond. So make sure that you prepare yourself for that as well. The best way that I can describe that is make sure that you go to the appointments that you can, for the simple fact of just bonding with your baby. Speaking of appointments, let me tell you this, guys. No one prepares you as a father or as a new dad that when you go, first of all, how many appointments there are. Like, there are a ton of appointments. That there's blood work, there's the 9-week, the 12-week, the 20-week, and there's a whole bunch of appointments that comes along with your wife's pregnancy, and rightfully so, because let me tell you this, there are so many steps within a pregnancy to where something at any point in day could go wrong, and that is another thing that no one ever talks about, is that there is the possibility of you receiving bad news at any point in your pregnancy. So dads, let me tell you this, firsthand experience. Make sure that you go to all of the appointments, because you don't want to be put in a situation to where your wife is hearing bad news alone and you weren't aware that that could be a possibility. Literally, that's the story of my wife and I's first child. I didn't know anything could go wrong. I've never heard of any stories about these things. So I'm just assuming it's a routine checkup to look at blood work or to see what the baby's doing and all those things. But the very first appointment, we received news that our child was unfortunately probably going to go through miscarriage. And hearing that for the first time, I'm like, wait a minute. I was so unprepared. I was mad. I was ticked. Like, I was so frustrated. I was ready to essentially just like blow up, because I felt betrayed that no one had ever told me that, hey, there's a possibility that this could happen. And because of that unawareness, I put my wife in a position to where the news that she received broke her heart, and I wasn't next to her. All because someone wasn't able to tell me, or no one informed me on the possibility that the news that you can receive at appointments could not be great. And the likelihood, or the amount, or the percentage that is likely to happen, I was completely oblivious to. And I think a lot of you dads are also maybe oblivious to this, that chances are it's like 1 in 4 pregnancies don't work out. And that's a high number. So I guarantee you, someone you know close to you has been through this. And it comes in many shapes and forms and sizes and things that can go wrong. It comes in many different ways. And you don't really know about this world around you until you're thrown into it. And when I was thrown into this portion of my story, I realized like people I'm really close to have had the same scenario, if not even different ones, to where it's like they lost their child at the 20 week, the 9 week, the 30 week. Like, all these things happen very commonly. But maybe because it's so difficult to talk about that people don't want to scare you. But I'm here to let you know, there is a possibility that things do happen. So make sure that you are aware of these things. This next one is interesting, because when we are thrown into this mix of becoming a new father and we're still dealing with pregnancy, right? And the difficult thing is, a lot of the times you will not know how to help your partner. I'm going to say it straight up. Moms, if you're listening to this, please know your husband, the father of your child, would love to be able to help you, but he may remain silent if he is unsure, or he may seem distant if he's not confident in the best way that he wants to help you, or the best ways to help you. So ladies, if you're listening, make sure that you communicate to your partner and say, hey, these are the ways that I need help. My wife and I, when we started having these conversations of just like, hey, I just need you to be here in this way, or I need you to show up for me in these ways, I was way more confident and able to act in confidence, because I was aware, hey, this is exactly what you need from me in order to feel like you are supported. Dads, you are not going to know unless you either ask or your wife talks to you. Wives, if you are listening, your husband will not know how to help you, and each of you will need something differently from your husband. So if you don't communicate that to him, he will completely miss it. This next one's a big one, because this really taps on your heart, and this one really taps on the part of your brain that makes you question everything. So what you need to know is, once you're thrown into becoming a father, you start to learn all these things, and you'll be able to spit back facts and understand exactly all the lingos and all these kinds of things. Once it becomes your world, it makes sense. But prior to you stepping into that world, you are completely clueless. So let me warn you about this. No one tells you that it makes you feel like you're complete silly. I'm going to say the word. You're going to feel like an idiot because it seems like everyone around you who's already been through the process, they're going to be telling you facts about having a child, parenting, all these things. Experts say this, the hospital says this. Like, there's going to be so many facts thrown at you, and you're going to be thinking to yourself, I have no idea what any of you are talking about. They can be talking about something that seems simple, that everyone just knows. And let me tell you, you are going to be put in positions to where all these things are going to be said, and you're going to have no idea what's happening around you. That is okay. It is totally normal. You will start to catch up. And the biggest thing that I can tell you that I will always say in each video is the more you educate yourself, dads, the more prepared you will be. Do not be afraid to go take a class. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to go seek counsel from people you trust, because the more you educate yourself, the more prepared you will be. If you wait to the last minute, like so many of us dads do, and then we're thrown into the fire, we're always going to be trying to play catch up. But if you get ahead of the game, you ask questions, all this confusion and all these things that seem impossible to know about, they will become clearer and clearer. All right. That will help some of that new dad anxiety as well, because you will feel like you're more prepared. If I could go back and tell myself prior to my baby being born the first couple months, and I had the knowledge that I do now, I would go back and tell myself, dude, it's actually going to be okay. It's actually going to be okay. I know you're scared. I know you're thinking these things. I know you're wondering about these questions, and we'll go over some of those. But younger self, I'm telling you, it's all good. And I'm telling you, dads, when that baby's here, it's all good. It's all good. You will learn, and it will be an incredible experience. But you will feel overwhelmed from people who keep telling you all these things that you think you are supposed to know, and you're just not going to know. Okay, this one is very, very, very crucial. Listen to me, and listen to me well. Men, husbands, wives, mothers, you guys are built completely differently in your minds. The way that we think is completely different, not even just from male to female, but also simply from person to person, okay? But the majority of men that I encountered that I've asked and talked with, and fathers that I've asked, and mothers that I've observed and asked, and all these things, there are two common thought patterns of a male versus a female. Now, when it comes to having a baby, the thought pattern of a male is simply this: I have no idea what I'm doing, but I will learn as it comes to me. I have no idea what I'm doing, but as things happen, I will learn, I will pick up on it, and I will adapt. That is the mindset of a man. So we will be in a position to where, I am completely clueless about this situation. However, these are my tools. These are my resources. These are my ideas. Let me kind of play around with all these things that I have until I figure out a solution. And then we implement that solution. And if the solution works, then we continue down that path. That's how we learn in parenting. Moms, you guys are completely different. So dads, make sure you pay attention to this. Moms, they have an expectation mindset, meaning they have a thought and an expectation. This is how motherhood is supposed to look like. And anything that does not fit inside of that box, that goes outside of that box, they're immediately met with their own mindset of, I'm a bad mom, or I'm a terrible mom. And when things happen or don't go their way, they will instantly blame themselves. They will instantly be frustrated and upset, and even be emotionally unstable and tears, and all these things happen because they're in a position to, well, this is my expectation, but this didn't happen, so therefore I'm a bad mom. Even though both sides of the coin, if you will, both get hit with information and unpredictability when it comes to parenting, when it comes to pregnancy, when it comes to raising children. You will always be hit with unpredictability. But what happens is the mindset of a man says, you know what? This is new to me. I'm going to adapt and see what I can learn through it to make this situation better. And the ladies, you guys will have a mindset that says, this was my expectation. It failed, so therefore I'm a failure. And those two mindsets, when they come together, if you guys aren't communicating through that, be aware that that can cause like some fire. So dads, make sure that you are very careful with your wording and how you speak to your wife. And wives, make sure that you understand that you are not a terrible mother, but you may have to adapt to situations and simply chalk it up to, things happen. You can't predict everything. And if you could, you would be God. And none of us are. Dads, this next one, listen to me. Every father thinks this unless you're born rich. All right. If you're born rich, you don't really think about this. However, if you don't come from a lot of money, or if you don't come from a well-off family, you will think to yourself, how will I provide for this child to ensure their safety? Totally normal. You can have a steady job. You can be with your wife. You can have a house. You can be paying your mortgage. You can be on time with your car payments. But all of a sudden, when your wife is pregnant, you start to have foresight, or you start to think ahead and say, man, I've always been told kids are expensive. I've always been told that they will take all your money. And you have this mindset as a father, you start to say, am I in the right career path? Am I making enough money to be able to support my family? If I want my wife to be a stay-at-home mom, am I making enough money? And you start to ask all these questions. Well, how do I provide more? How do I provide better? How can I work harder? And all these things start to come into your head about providing. Totally natural, totally normal. But let me tell you this, the best thing that you can do is have a partner or have a wife who is on your team supporting you in whatever direction you go. So let me tell you this, boys. Let me tell you this. You will gain, as a father, you will gain so much more strength and resilience to be able to work, and you will go in the mindset of, do I need to take a second job? Do I need to figure out other ways to provide? That's totally normal. That's totally normal. If you need to pursue those things, please do. However, knowing that your partner is behind you, supporting you through this, will give you the strength to be able to do things when you are tired and exhausted, will be able to take steps and risk and all these things. And for you to be able to do those things, having a partner supporting you in that way goes a long, long way. Now, that is more difficult if you have a partner who's maybe fighting you every step of the way, and maybe challenging you and calling you names and things of that nature. It becomes more difficult. However, it's totally normal to go with the mindset of, am I in the right career choice? Do I need to change jobs? Do I need to ask for a raise? All those questions do pop into your head because you want to be able to provide for your child a better life than you had. And a lot of the times, dads, I'm going to be honest, we can't provide what we do not have until we are older. So while we're in our mid-20s, when we're first kind of establishing our fatherhood, we kind of are still figuring out the system. We're figuring out the world. We're figuring out ourselves. And we don't really get access to money and get paid the way that we ought to for a family until we are about in our mid-30s, if I'm honest. Some people, it may be later when they finally get that either the corporate job or the business that they start and they understand investing. All those kinds of things come later as a male, and it's very difficult raising a family on the front end when you're younger because all those things are kind of mysteries to you and you have to figure those out. But a lot of the ways that we figure that out is due to our strength, that we then say, I need to provide better. What are some ways that I can invest? What are some ways that I can capitalize every way on my money? What are some ways that I can look for entrepreneurship? So all of these things start to pop in your head to give you ideas. And I say, trust those, like go with your gut, learn a new skill. All those things are necessary. However, it is completely normal to have that thought process. So this one is unique. This one is I call this one, it's very silent. This is the silent process of being a dad. So, your wife is pregnant and her body's going through all these changes. Her belly's growing. Her feet may be swollen. She's getting cramps. She's got the morning sickness, like you name it, weird cravings, all these things, painful things are happening to your wife's body. Now, let me tell you something. Gentlemen, listen closely. You will feel like you have absolutely zero room to say anything negative about your experience or your own mental space. No matter, I'm telling you, no matter how supportive your wife is, no matter how supportive your family is, you will in the back of your mind feel like you can never say anything that feels like it's complaining because of, hey, you're not pregnant, you're not the one carrying the child, so therefore your opinion and your feelings don't matter. If you don't address these things within yourselves, it will eat you up and you just will remain silent. So please, gentlemen, understand this. It's totally normal to feel like that, maybe my mental space, maybe the concerns that I have, maybe the things that I'm feeling, the nerves that I have, maybe they're not even worth bringing up because, hey, I'm not the one carrying the baby. And society kind of made it that way as well, to where it's like, Women have this seat of, hey, they can get whatever they want when they're pregnant, and they can say whatever they want, do whatever they want, because they're the one going through this experience. And trust me, I totally get it. I'm not knocking the experience. It's an incredible, difficult experience. But fathers, I need you to know this. If you do not have a space to share your thoughts and your concerns and all these things, and the mental battle that you're facing within your own selves, dealing with those insecurities, if you don't have a place to vent that out or to talk to someone, those will kind of just well up on you, and it's never good to carry that around. So it's totally normal to feel like you don't have a say or you don't have a voice, because you feel like, hey, well, I'm not the one carrying the baby, so therefore I can't have this thought. That's totally normal, happens to everybody. But like I said, just make sure you find someone that you can navigate this with through, and even talk to your partner about it and say, hey, I know you're the one going through these things, and I feel terrible, but here are like some things that my mental space and some concerns that I have that I'm like, I didn't think like this before, but now I'm thinking like this. And as long as it's not brought up in a way that's selfish, and your partner, again, is a great partner, I think you guys will be able to work it out. So another thing that no one tells you is the nursery. There are so many things entailed to making a nursery and building it, and I was super blessed to have, I have a mother-in-law who just happens to be like Chip and Joanna in one person, where she can literally build like a house from the ground up. So coming and helping with her grandson's nursery was like an absolute joy for her. So I was super blessed in that way. But let me be honest, when it comes to the nursery, I was very clueless. I had no idea what was supposed to go in there, what size is the crib, bassinet, like putting all that stuff together, rocking chair. Like, your wife will plan a lot of what actually goes into the nursery, and you will be kind of responsible for building those things. And depending on the kind of help that you have, it can feel very overwhelming, even if it's a couple things. Because if you're like me, I am not handy. I am not handy, not even a little bit. Like a screw. See, I'm even having trouble with names. A screwdriver and a screw is like my max. Having a drill and some drills and screws, having that's enough for me. Anything outside of that, I need help. And if you're anything like that, when it comes to building a nursery, you will feel like, well, I'm the man, I'm supposed to be able to do these things. And if you don't ask for help, you will get overwhelmed, you will feel trapped, you will feel alone, and it is just not great. So when it comes to building a nursery, make sure that you maybe have help, make sure that you have someone that you can bring in. But if you are handy, please know that you will be expected, and it will be a process for you to build that nursery with the things and the vision that maybe your wife has planned. Now, you guys can work together on the theme and things of that nature, but please know, like, the majority of the decorating will go to the mother, and that's totally fine if she likes to do those things. I personally, there was a lot of things I simply did not care about. Like, not in a, I don't care about the nursery. It was just like, oh, it's not a big deal if the dresser goes on the left or on the right to me. It's not a big deal if the dresser is in the middle of the room to the left of the room, as long as he has a dresser. Like, if you pay attention, women do a lot of the decorating inside of the home. They make the house a home. That's just how it goes. They're very decorative in that way. And it's no different in the nursery. So just know, like, there will be some things that you maybe just like not understand. Like, I wonder why it's a big deal, like that we hang this piece of art on this wall this high instead of on this wall. Like, you may be asked, like, which one is better, and give your honest opinion, and then you move on from there. But please know there will just be certain things that are like, that doesn't really bother me one way or the other. But there will be certain things that you're like, hey, no, in my baby's room, he will have this. Like, and those will be certain things that you're like, no, there will be this. I will have this particular thing in place. A big one for me was that there would be like a Bible verse somewhere in his room. That was a big thing for me. I was like, there will be something representing God in his room. Like, that's just for me. And yeah, so that was just something that I really felt strongly about, that would be in his room. And again, my wife, there were other things that she felt strongly about, like, hey, I really enjoy this theme. Hey, I really enjoy this. I'm like, hey, no worries. We'll have that. That's all good. So you guys will differ on different parts of the nursery. But just know that when it comes to the nursery, there will be certain things that you will have to do and build. And make sure you start as soon as you possibly can, because if you procrastinate at all within the nursery and you wait to the last minute, if the baby happens to come early or for whatever reason, a lot early, then you want to make sure that room is prepared, because you do not want to have to be in the hospital making phone calls saying, hey, can you set this up for me? That's not a fundamental space to be in. So we're done with pregnancy. Let's talk about when it comes to actually parenting, delivery, the baby being born, and afterwards, okay? So when it comes to the baby being born, I need you to know this. You will get unsolicited advice from your parents, from your family, from your cousins, from your second cousins, from your great aunt, from you name it, from friends you haven't talked to in 20 years, from high school people, like no matter where you are, from strangers. I'm telling you, people will tell you how to raise your baby. People will tell you what gadgets to buy. People will tell you everything under the sun that they think that they're an expert on. And let me also go on to say this. There will be experts that say conflicting things. One expert would say, hey, it's best to put baby on this side. And the other expert would say, no, we've actually learned that it's best to do baby this way. Oh, you should pump in the hospital. Oh, you shouldn't pump until 2 weeks later. And it's just like, you will hear literally so many conflicting and different opinions about how to do what you are supposed to do with your child. I'm gonna cut right to it as I'm giving you advice, but I'm gonna be honest with you. This is what you need to do. If it's best for you, best for your wife, best for your child. If those three things are in alignment, you move forward. So for example, most experts will say, hey, breastfeed for a year, right? Breastfeed for a year. However, if your baby is having a lot of trouble latching, and every single time that you have to feed, there's a huge problem and the baby's crying, the mom gets frustrated, and everyone is just not having a good time, if you step away from maybe breastfeeding and go into a bottle or go into formula or go into anything other than having that stressful environment, once you're out of that, yes, sure, the breast milk is the most nutritious, but if you have to step out of that in order for the mom to be more happy, for the baby to be well fed, because maybe the mom wasn't producing enough milk, or who knows, there's so many things. But if you step into a situation to where it's maybe less than ideal, but it works for you, the mom, and your baby, then that's what you're supposed to proceed with, because your baby is unique to you, and you are the parents who are entrusted with bringing that baby to life, with bringing that baby into adulthood, into being a toddler, all those things. You are the one entrusted. So yes, there will be expert advice. Yes, you will receive a ton of information. However, listen to me. If you do not do what's best for your family and you try to mimic another family, you've already lost. You've already lost, because you will start to do the comparison game, and comparison is the thief of joy. We've heard it before. Comparison is the thief of joy. So if you do not do what's best for your family and your baby, you will end up in a cycle of frustration because you're trying to force something that isn't necessarily supposed to be for your child. That's just how it is. That's the raw, honest truth. You heard it here first, folks. So dads, listen to me. You will have to be the enforcer of this, of saying, hey, you are not a bad mom if we have to adapt. It's how it goes. Hey, you don't have to be frustrated at this process. We can change the process. You don't have to keep this exact certain thing, this exact certain date at this exact certain time that so-and-so said to keep, because you will walk around frustrated when your baby isn't doing what their baby did. I'm telling you, you will go insane. So dads, do what's best for you, your wife, and your baby. And when those three things are aligned, that's your choice. No matter what that looks like, that's your choice. So I'm going to do a whole different video dedicated solely to this next topic, but I want to give you a little insight because no one tells you about this. So when it comes to delivering the baby, there is some information that is kind of missing during this topic. So you kind of get a picture in your mind of Maybe your wife is screaming in the car. She says, honey, I'm pregnant. My water broke. Water's everywhere. Clean up on aisle 5. You got to rush to the store within 2 seconds, or rush to the hospital within 2 seconds. And then the baby's going to be out at any point, and you got to try not to have the baby in the car and all these kinds of things. That's kind of your picture. And then once you get to the hospital, you push for however long, and all of a sudden, eventually the baby's going to come out, right? That is not how it goes. Not even close. That's not how it goes. Again, I will have a whole video dedicated to this, but please know this. The process, as long as it's not an emergency, listen to me, as long as there's not an emergency, things happen. Like I said, things happen. But if there's not an emergency, it's pretty chill. And if you prepare yourself ahead of time, it's pretty chill. The only thing that you need to be aware of and just pay attention to is during the delivery process is making sure everything is okay then, because there are things that can go a little bit wrong. For instance, my son got stuck on his way out, so we had to figure out a way around that. Eventually, he did still come through the birth canal. However, there was a whole process that we had to kind of figure out around that. So that was atypical. It wasn't normal. However, up until that point, everything was really smooth, and we were able to be informed ahead of time of what to look for, what signs we could see, in order to be able in a position to where we were not panicking whatsoever. In fact, when our water broke, or when my wife's water broke, we actually went to pick up food because we knew, hey, we have X amount of time before these things happen. And if we're not feeling these things, we know we have this amount of time. So these things haven't happened yet. Let's go get food. Let's prepare ourselves for the night. Let's make sure we get our go bags, and then we are ready to go. And all that took time, to where if we weren't prepared in that situation, then we would have been panicking and rushing to the hospital and been all out of whack for no reason, because we weren't prepared. So no one tells you how to be prepared. And don't forget, I'm going to have a whole video dedicated to delivery, so you won't have to worry about it. Okay, so the baby's here, the baby's born, you learned about delivery, okay? And no one tells you about this. So babies go through something called second day syndrome. Write it down, take notes, screenshot. I don't care what you got to do. Second day syndrome. Remember this. Second day syndrome is this. Your baby is born, and after they're born, they're kind of like chilling, right? They'll cry, maybe they'll fall asleep. And somewhere between when they wake up and then the following day, in the following couple days, will something called second day syndrome kick in. And what second day syndrome is this. Your baby will cry every few minutes. It will be hungry. It will try to feed. It will cry. It will rarely sleep. It will yell. And it feels so overwhelming. And for me, I was thinking, and my wife also was thinking this, we were like, man, what did we get ourselves into? We didn't know it was going to be like this. And we were actually very discouraged, because we were like, what are we going to do with this kid? Like, we can't even sit for 2 seconds without him crying or wanting food, and trying to figure out latching, and all of these things were happening so quickly. And because we weren't prepared for that second day syndrome, we were, oh my gosh, I can't even tell you the amount of stress that we just got enveloped with. But as we learned later, we figured out, oh, this is very common. It's called second day syndrome. This is what happens. These are the signs to look for. If your baby does this, he's going through second day syndrome. We didn't know this. So dads, I'm telling you ahead of time, if your baby is born and you are in the hospital or you are at home, and that first couple days you're like, whoa, what did I get myself into? Chances are, if they're cluster feeding, all those kinds of things, are sleeping, waking up, crying, sleeping, waking up, crying, eating over and over and over again with like no breaks in between, that is second day syndrome, and that can last for a couple days. So make sure you are aware. It does get better. It does get better. So dads, just make sure that you tell your wife, hey, be aware of this thing called second day syndrome. So after the baby's born, I always talk from experience. So my experience was that we had our baby in the hospital. And what happens is, when the baby's born in the hospital, you stay a couple days in the hospital and they send you home. When they send you home, this is what happens. You are expected to have a car seat already in the hospital before they let you go home with the baby. So make sure you bring that. So when you're in the hospital and they're going to send you home, you pack up, you get ready. They give you all the tools necessary. They make sure they go through all the tests, and then they send you home. Make sure, dads, that when you are in the car, you are aware that your first trip home with the baby, you're gonna go so slow because you're gonna be like, man, if I bump anything, I'm gonna hurt this baby. I'm gonna everything's gonna be all out of whack and he's gonna hurt himself and you're gonna be having all these thoughts. You're gonna be going super, super slow. Totally normal on the first ride. I'm telling you, as the second, third, fourth, as rides go on, you are still very cautious, but you are able to kind of let loose and drive pretty normally. You do usually go the speed limit. There's a couple times where, you maybe speed up a little bit. However, when your baby's in the car, you do have an extra caution. I was not aware of this, and I was trying to train my driving ahead of time because I'll be honest, if you're anything like me, I speed. So I was trying to train my foot to be slower and train my body to be slower when I'm driving, due to the fact of making sure that I was able to drive correctly when my baby was in the car. So make sure you get that training done ahead of time so you'll be confident and be able to drive carefully when your baby is in the car with you. So you will be super slow, you'll be super cautious, totally normal. This is something that, again, you have to learn as you go. The first while, probably couple weeks, you will feel absolutely helpless. You will feel like, what am I doing? I don't know what to do. Why is the baby crying? Why won't he stop crying? Let me tell you something. You will learn your baby so quickly, you will shock yourself. There will be certain things that your baby does that you will pick up on, that you will be able to say, oh, that cry means he's hungry. Oh, that was a fake cry. He didn't really mean that. Or, oh, yep, he's getting ready to toot. Oh, yep, he's going to poop in the next 3 minutes. Like, you'll be able to pick up all these things about your baby. And then there'll be certain things you're like, well, I've never heard this cry before. This is new. Something must actually be wrong. When it came to my son, there were certain cries that he was doing where he was just hungry, and we knew that. But then he did this new cry out of nowhere to where we were like, wait a minute. I've never heard, like, my wife and I, we've never heard this before. So we started like looking around and peeking and all these things, and he kept doing it. And we just thought like, okay, maybe something else is wrong that we don't know. But it clicked with me that he was circumcised, right? And what happened is that when a baby gets circumcised and they wet their diapers, that, if you can imagine, it's like having surgery, it burns. So we remember like, oh, wait a minute. Like, we were told about that if he just wakes up crying, that means this was irritating him. So then all we did, we would change the diaper and then everything was good. So then we were able to recognize, oh, this was a new cry. This is the cry when he does when something is actually like wrong. And a few times later, he did the cry again, and we're like, oh, wait a minute, we know this one. So now we're searching his body to figure out, okay, what's happening. And then another time we saw something in his eye. It was a dog hair in his eye. So it was like, oh, we recognize the cry. That's like, okay, something is actually wrong. And then there's other things where like, you're kind of faking on that one. Maybe you just need to be held. And there was other ones like, okay, you're hungry. There's certain movements that he does when he's working out gas. So you learn your baby very, very, very quickly. But the first couple days, couple weeks, you're kind of thrown into the sauce of like, you have to learn your baby, and no one tells you that, and you're not really made aware of that you get to learn your baby, and it's a process. So you won't know what certain things mean, and you will have to do the trial by error. And that is okay. And even still, right now, my son is almost 3 months old. There's a lot of things that we do that are trial by error, where we say, we're pretty sure this means you're hungry. But then sometimes we'll feed and there'll still be like a couple cries or something. And we have to essentially go through a checklist of saying, okay, is your diaper dirty? No. Okay. Is it this? Does your belly hurt? Maybe you're working out gas. And then you have to kind of play the trial and error game. But the more you learn your child, the less you will have to do that trial and error game, because you will understand their cries. You will understand essentially their language, to be able to help them as quickly as possible. So that's just something no one tells you, that you have to build up. You don't just get born in your son or daughter doesn't get born into the world and you get an instruction manual on their personality. You guys have to figure each other out. But once you do, it's a beautiful communication. Guys, there was a lot of things that I told you about that maybe no one has told you, and especially I know a lot of dads just simply don't know about. I will do a part 2 to this video at some point, because there are so many other things after the baby's here, including bottles, including feedings, including wake windows, all of those kinds of things where you're just like, I have no idea what's happening, and I'm still personally learning those things, and I want to make sure that I become an expert first, or not really expert, but just well versed in it, so I can communicate it more effectively to you guys, so you can be as prepared as possible. So I'm still learning about wake windows. I'm still learning about bottle feedings and all those kinds of things, and different sizes and flows and all that kind of stuff. So when I'm updated on all that information and going through it firsthand experience, I will let you guys know and be updated on that. But the best thing that you can ever do is educate yourself. I am a huge advocate for education, whether it's self, whether it's a class, whether it's a mentor. I don't care how you get it. If you are educated, you will succeed. People perish for a lack of knowledge. So make sure that you educate yourself and make sure that you are as equipped as you can get. Not that you will know everything, but there will be far less surprises. Dads, I hope you got new info on the things that people will never tell you about becoming a dad. But if you want to learn some lessons that I learned during the first month of actually having a baby, make sure that you click this video.